Every time I'm lucky enough to eat a tropical fruit, I can't help thinking about growing a tree from seed. In this video, I will talk about people in the past who, like me, have enjoyed the mangosteen so much that they decided to try to grow this ultra-tropical tree in other regions and colder climates. The strange thing with this small channel is that its viewership is from all around the world. Europe, Africa, India, Southeast Asia, Australia, you name it. And I'm from Canada. Depending on where you are located, the information you can get from a YouTube video may not be accurate, especially when it comes to growing plants. This is even truer when it comes to mangosteens. So this video is also for people interested in experimenting with this lesser-known fruit, as I will provide an update on my own experience trying to germinate and grow mangosteen seedlings in a colder temperate climate. But first, let me address a few comments I got from my viewers on a previous video about how to choose and eat mangosteens. Some people commented that my techniques to open a mangosteen is barbarous. I'm the first to recognize that my techniques are not the best, either with a knife or with my fingernails. An arguably better technique will be to gently squeeze the fruit until the outer shell cracks open. If you happen to live in a tropical country and have access to a large supply of cheap, perfectly ripe and freshly picked from the tree mangosteens, then go for the finger squeezing technique if you have mastered it. I'm based in Canada. Here mangosteens are fairly expensive, and I may enjoy them once or twice a year, so I'd rather not take any chances. Even if the fruits were more affordable, they may not have been picked perfectly ripe. Actually, picking a perfectly ripe mangosteen on a tree is not easy. As some of you have commented, when a mangosteen is picked too soon, its shell is hard and it won't taste good anyway. Besides, an unripe mangosteen usually will not ripen further after being picked from the tree. But an overripe mangosteen also has a hard rind. Assuming the fruit was picked perfectly ripe from the tree, its shell could also become hard to crack open, depending on how much time elapsed from the moment it was picked and the moment it is consumed. So the chances are high that imported mangosteens have harder rinds on average. Additionally, Asian grocery stores where I get my mangosteens here in Canada usually sell the fruits in string bags, so choosing mangosteens one by one is not an option. I guess if consumers had that option, only soft-rind mangosteens will be chosen by connoisseurs on a first-come, first-served basis, leaving hard-rind mangosteens unsold before a price discount is applied by the store. High price tag, not easy to pick perfectly ripe, and equipped with an intimidating shell, are those the reasons why the mangosteen is called the queen of fruits? Long after the oceans drank Atlantis and before the rise of processed food, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, the mangosteen, destined to bear the jewel crown of the queen of fruits. Let me be its chronicler and tell you of the days of high adventure. In fact, the expression mangosteen, the queen of tropical fruits, was first coined by American botanist and plant explorer David Fairchild in 1903 after a trip to Java in Southeast Asia. Later on, the expression was shortened to simply the queen of fruits. Fairchild even went as far as saying that Queen Victoria once offered £100 to anyone who would bring her a mangosteen. This was a substantial amount of money, with buying power equivalent to 20,000 US dollars in present time after adjusting for inflation. It is unclear which sources Fairchild used to make such a statement, but there is at least some truth to it, as a premium was offered by the British government for the successful transportation of some species of tropical fruit trees from the East Indies to the West Indies. Royal Navy officer William Blight was eventually successful in bringing the breadfruit from Tahiti to the Caribbean.
Mr. Christian,
But it took him 2 trips,
kindly give me an explanation.
a mutiny, and a court-martial inquiry for the loss of the now famous Bounty vessel. Some accounts of the mutiny aboard the Bounty mentioned that fresh water was short.
Williams has been drinking seawater, sir. I was giving him some fresh water. I'm afraid he'll die without it.
You'll give no one water without my permission. Take that ladle below.
Yes, sir.
And Blight gave priority to keeping the breadfruit plants alive, oversupplying his cellars, leading to tensions that ultimately contributed to the rebellion of the crew. Often lost in the history books, was that the other main plant species the British government wanted to bring back was the mangosteen. Is it because no expedition at the time was able to keep alive a mangosteen plant for the duration of such a long journey? But why did the British government view so highly of the mangosteen? It probably all started with this book published in 1775 titled A Description of the Mangosteen and the Breadfruit by naturalist and member of the Royal Society John Ellis. What a strange combination! Those two fruits have nothing in common except for the fact that they originally mainly grew in the tropical regions of Southeast Asia and Oceania. The book ends with an advertisement explaining that very handsome premiums will be offered by wealthy merchants and agents of the West Indies to anyone who will bring over, in a healthy growing state, mangosteen and breadfruit plants. A long section of the book is dedicated to the construction of a wide case for bringing over the plants, with some depictions clearly showing the mangosteen and the breadfruit plants sharing the same case. The interest for the breadfruit tree stemmed from an effort to find a cheap and reliable food source for slaves working on plantations in Jamaica and the other Caribbean islands, as explained by Ellis in no uncertain terms. But while Ellis refers to the breadfruit as a pleasant article of subsistence to many, he explains that the mangosteen has been known as the most pleasant fruit yet known. Was this just a gratuitous exaggeration? Citing famous Swedish naturalist Carl Linnaeus, known as the father of modern taxonomy, Ellis goes on to say that the mangosteen is the most delicious fruit of all the Indies, and it yields to none of the best in Europe. All of the Indies should probably be understood in this context as East and West Indies combined. Interestingly, according to Ellis, Carl Linnaeus mentioned that one may eat a great deal of this fruit without any inconvenience, and that it is the only one which sick people may be allowed to eat without any scruple, referring to the many health benefits attributed to the mangosteen. Even more surprising, Ellis quoted German botanist Rumphius as saying that when sick people have no relish for any other food, they generally eat the mangosteen with great delight. But should they refuse it, their recovery is no longer expected. I think surely only barbarians will disagree that the best thing in life is eating a fresh mangosteen.
This is good, but what is best in life?
The open steppe, fleet horse, falcons at your wrist, and the wind in your hair.
Wrong! Conan, what is best in life?
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
That is good. That is good.
Finally, when talking about the Western adventurers who found and studied the mangosteen, a special mention should be made about French botanist Laurent Garcin. Garcin traveled 3 times to the East Indies and produced the first highly detailed description of the plant. Linnaeus honored the work of Garcin by naming the genus Garcinia after him. Today, the mangosteen is also known by the scientific community by its Latin name, Garcinia Mangostana. Clearly, while the breadfruit and the mangosteen were, ironically, depicted sharing the same custom case, it seems unlikely that the mangosteen was also to be shared with the slaves of the British Empire. And while Ellis does mention bringing over the mangosteen for the benefit of the fellow subjects of the empire in the West Indies, he first talks about acquiring the honor of transmitting them to Europe. So could it be that the multiple superlative descriptions of the mangosteen by the adventurers and explorers piqued the interest of the monarchs of the British Empire, including Queen Victoria? What is known is that Eleanor Percy, the Duchess of Northumberland, gave a raving description of the mangosteen to Queen Victoria, and she was so proud that her skilled gardener managed to grow a mangosteen tree from seed and get it to fruit in the temperate British climate that she asked to be allowed to send to the Queen a mangosteen fruit from her tree. Keep in mind that even today it can still be challenging to get perfectly ripe imported mangosteens. In the 18th century, only plant explorers like Laurent Garcin, willing to brave dangers and tropical diseases during their journey in the East Indies, had the pleasure to enjoy this wonderful fruit. But keeping a mangosteen sapling alive for the entire journey from the East Indies to the West Indies must have been equally challenging aboard a 18th century ship. As the captain of the expedition to bring over the breadfruit tree and possibly the mangosteen tree as well, William Blight had certainly received clear recommendations from botanists. So while his orders to ration fresh water on the bounty vessel seem devoid of empathy towards his crew, I can somewhat understand his position. The only other alternative then was to grow a mangosteen tree from seed. In my own experience, the mangosteen is among the most difficult fruit trees to grow from seed. First of all, inside a fruit, only 1 or 2 seeds are viable. Sometimes none of the seeds germinate. Getting the seeds to germinate requires lots of heat and humidity. I found that it is okay to bury the seeds a little bit deeper. Seeds that are planted deeper will produce longer stems to emerge from the soil surface. After such seeds are transplanted closer to the soil surface, their stems will slowly harden off. My mangosteen seedlings have been extremely slow growing over the winter indoors. I would say the fastest growing seedlings produced a new set of leaves once every 3 months. The slowest growing seedlings did not produce any new leaves during winter time. The watering must be spot on almost every single day when a seedling starts to push out new leaves. This is what happened when I did not properly water a seedling during this critical time. The new growth quickly shriveled and stayed like this for months. The success of the gardener of the Duchess of Northumberland is here to remind us that successfully growing a mangosteen tree from seed and getting it to fruit in a temperate climate is an achievable feat, one that requires patience and dedication of steel. They planted the mangosteen seeds in 1833, when Queen Victoria was 13 years old, and a surviving tree produced its first fruits more than 20 years later in 1855, when the Queen was 36 years old. The heated greenhouse in which the mangosteen tree was grown had to be able to accommodate its size, which was 15 feet high and 9 feet wide at time of fruiting. I'm not sure I will be able to match their prowess, but if you would like to get future updates on my mangosteen seedlings grown in Canada, like, subscribe, and don't forget to activate notifications.